One of the challenges that any business owner or leader is likely going to face are objections. And one of the most challenging things sometimes is to figure out how to handle when people have objections to the product or service you have or something that you're asking them to do. We're going to have that conversation this week about how to handle objections, or at least have a conversation around handling objections. Today, we're going to dive into one of my favorites. I just don't have enough time to do all of that. Or I really see the value of your product or service. I just don't have time to learn it or understand it or to actually do it. So we're going to have a conversation around that on episode 815 of today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom.
Morning, Bob. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I got the lighting pretty good. I got my stand-up desk so I can do and really work it.
Nice.
Yeah. Hey, it's the little things that make
Did you get your office area organized?
No, it's not organized. That not even on a bet. I got the desk up and I got some other things done. I got everything out of the bunker. I neglected that step. That was the first step. And this is one of the things, we talk about taking the next step. I forgot a step. And I realized in the process of getting the office straightened out, it's like, oh, I still have some stuff at the bunker I need to remove. So I recalibrated and actually went back and said, first thing first, get the stuff out of the bunker. So the bunker is empty.
So now there's more stuff in the office?
Exactly. Thereby creating a bigger next step.
Was that just an avoidance of this step?
No, not at all. No. And a lot of the stuff that was left in the bunker had to go to various locations. In fact, I have in the back of my vehicle about 20 golf clubs that need to find a home.
You just had 20 extra golf clubs lying around?
Yes. Over the years, I have acquired golf clubs for various ways, various reasons, because I never really bought a set. So someone would give me a club they were discarding, or I'd buy a club used, or, various ways. So over the years, I acquired a lot of golf clubs. And prior to the bunker, I was living in a location where I could put them up in a rafter. Mm-hmm. So I would replace a 3-iron with a new 3-iron and put the old club up in the rafters. So there was a time when all the clubs that were up in the rafters came down and were bestowed upon me. And so they are now in the back of my vehicle. So there's a really nice driver. There's a 3-wood, I think a 5-wood, a putter, some
You could
iron.
do a little eBay or Amazon selling.
That sounds like work. I've never done that.
Yeah, I've sell some things a couple of times. There's also
You're welcome to them. I'll give them to you, and you can take the money and run.
Maybe. Well, I'll have to think about that.
Okay. All right. And
all the extra time that I have.
I was going to say, if that's how you want to invest your time, that's fine.
Although that sounds like an objection, a time objection. So
very nice.
Maybe at the end of the show, I'll have a better understanding of whether or not that might make sense.
Okay. But I think the interesting thing to me was this whole idea of taking the next step. And we had talked about my next step. And I had never thought until I went through that process that sometimes the next step isn't actually the next step. That there's a step that comes before that step. And that I could have kept going with the step that I had decided. But then it's like, no, that's probably not the next step. And I think that's a lesson for me that I have never really thought about, because we talk to people about taking the next step. What's your next step going to be? And sometimes as you get new information, you start to realize, hey, you know what? This step is actually more important. Like, to me, getting the stand-up desk and the lighting right actually is more important than getting all the junk out of the office, because I sat way too much last week and my legs were actually swollen by Friday, believe it or not.
Wow.
So the stand-up desk had some real value. So I think you and I have to think through this more in terms of how we work with people, I think, because there's well, what if this isn't the actual next step, right?
Oh, yes. I've thought about that.
Have
Maybe
you?
that's a
Okay.
week-long episode, week-long program.
Well, I'm sorry, a whole week of that?
Maybe.
I like that idea. Okay. So
Not this week. This week we have something else. And not this week.
how was your weekend?
My weekend went well. It was busy.
Okay.
A lot of lacrosse. And
Looks like you got some sun somewhere along the way.
yes, it was very nice out Saturday and yesterday. And I was out all day yesterday.
No thunderstorm Saturday like they were predicting, right?
Well, interestingly enough, the game I was at, that I was officiating at, college game, had the horn for the game went off. So the game had just literally ended. And not 5 seconds later, somebody's out there with an air horn just blasting it 3 or 4 or 5 times. And as we're like literally didn't even have time to walk off the field yet. We're like, well, what is that all about? And one of my partners even said, because the person blowing the horn had the color of the uniform of the visiting team.
Okay.
And my partner was like, well, who let that person grab the horn and just start celebrating with the air horn that was at the table? And as we came to find out, it was the
Lightning warning,
storm warning. And I think we kind of, as we were talking in the locker room afterwards, feel like they probably got that a minute or two before. And they're like, we are not stopping this game with a minute left.
Right.
And it was a 1-goal game at the time. To sit around for 30 minutes and then come back and try to. It would have been different.
A minimum of 30 minutes.
A minimum of 30 minutes, correct.
Yeah.
Might have been different if, and if we had to go to overtime, okay,
Right.
There's a natural stopping point, and then we would come back
Yes.
and resume. So it was just interesting that it just was a very weird, like, oh, wait, what is going wrong? What is something that we didn't do correctly? What's some challenge?
Well, if you think of that 30 minutes, it's kind of arbitrary, right? I mean, I don't think there's like some incredible rule that came down from on high that says it's got to be exactly 30 minutes. Just like 30 minutes after you eat before you go in the pool. I don't think science has proven that 30 minutes is the magic number, not 28, not 32, or not 67.
I'm going to disagree with you there. I think that people have figured out that because it's the 30 minutes of every time you hear a lightning crack. And so I think the thought is that in 30 minutes, the storm will have passed or not, and that you would be safe. Because I think that's the way they kind of, sometimes those lightning, I don't know what they're called, but they're like a weather indicator, knows like how far the storm is away and how far it'll travel in that amount of time. And I think the 30 minutes is a safe. I'm sure some insurance person has gone through the whole process to figure out what is the liability and how fast are storms moving. And if we give it 30 minutes, there's a much more likely chance that there won't be another lightning strike that could then cause an insurance issue.
Okay, I
think that's different than your mom or dad saying, "Oh, you've got to wait 30 minutes to get back in the pool." I mean, I'm sure there's some science to that. Actually, I think it was an hour, and that because I'm sure everyone's body digests food differently. So
when I was a lifeguard and we took a lunch, I don't remember them ever after taking a lunch saying, "Hey, by the way, don't go in the water for a half hour."
Except you were the lifeguard. How many times did you jump in the water as a lifeguard?
3. Over the
how
course
long
of
were you a lifeguard?
2 summers.
So how many days was that? Like 300 days?
Maybe no, I did only for summers. So probably 200 days.
3 out of 200. I think they were fairly safe that they were like, okay, when your lunch break is over, if you had to dive in you would be okay.
Okay.
And you were probably in a little better shape than most of the people who were in the pool, likely. So you probably,
in most cases, on the weekends, I was sober, which differentiated me from most of the people that were in the pool.
There again lies another challenge. All right. We should probably move on from that.
All right. Yes. Let's talk about handling objections. I like it. But first, we got to have a celebration.
We do have to have a celebration. I'll just briefly say welcome everyone to today's Antidote, just in case you wonder what you were doing here, what we were doing. This is our daily weekday broadcast and podcast where we talk around different topics. And each topic, we then dive each day a little deeper into that topic during the week. And this week's topic, as I mentioned, is handling objections. Today, we're going to talk about the objection of time. And as we go through that conversation, obviously, if you have thoughts or ideas, please feel free to share it. At the end of the conversation, Bob and I will each offer our one thing, our today's antidote, the name of the show, that we hope will help you figure out how to take your next step. And of course, if you have a today's antidote, we would love for you to share it as well. Quick introduction now. Let's dive into, as we do every day before we kick off our conversation, we share our celebrations. So I have a feeling I understand what yours might be, although I'm interested to see, what is your celebration, Bob?
My celebration is that I got to have a family dinner with a family I'm getting to know last night. And I haven't had a real family dinner in a long time. And it was just fun to be around a table and have people laughing and joking and picking on me, because apparently, Tom, I say the word chocolate. Chocolate is how they said I say it. And so they were picking on me about chocolate is how they say I say it. And I don't think that's true. Maybe you've heard me say that, but it was nice to be around a family that was loose enough that they could give me some casual harassment. I enjoy that. And it was just fun. And it was meatloaf, which is one of my favorite things in the whole wide world.
No kidding.
I love meatloaf.
I'm not sure I knew that. That's one of my wife Liz's favorite foods.
So good. So good. And I got some to bring home. So I've got meatloaf for lunch today. I'm living the dream, Tom.
Glad to hear that.
Hey.
That's a good, long celebration.
You've been through the last couple of years. You've seen it up close and personal.
Well, everybody's dream is different.
The way to a man's heart is through food, right? Haven't you heard that?
Maybe. I have heard that.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe that's true for some. I don't know.
Oh, meatloaf is so good.
Oh, I find it so dense. It's just a little too much.
It is dense. And the funny thing is, it's not real hard to make. Like, I've made it. Meatloaf is really like one of the easiest things to make. Not as easy as chicken piccata, which I perfected in its ease, but looks.
You perfected it.
I perfected chicken piccata.
Interesting. So you can reach perfection.
Yes, with chicken piccata I can. What are you celebrating this morning? We're never going to get to objections. We're objecting to objections.
Maybe that says something. I am celebrating that yesterday. So as people know, or they might not, many people might know, is that I officiate girls and women's lacrosse. The other thing that I do is assign for small events, or sometimes large events, that this organization... Lacrosse events, yes.
Tournaments, as
correct. And so yesterday they had a play day. So I was out from 10 to 5 doing that. And to me,
some of us don't know what play day is. Play day was when we were like 5 years old and Ethan came over and we played together.
So this is like an organized club youth lacrosse play day. So
all the kids come together and they just put them in teams and they play lacrosse?
No. There are club teams, usually middle schoolers. At least that's what this was this day.
Is this like traveling teams in basketball? Like the better players, or the players whose parents articulate for them more?
Yes. The players whose parents have chosen to put them on a club team that will go around and play other club teams.
Okay.
Not necessarily designated by the community you live in or something like that. So So that was going on yesterday. It was a small event. There were 3 fields. It was going all most of the day. And to me, that's sort of the signal of summer, is when those events start.
Okay.
Summer is around the corner. And yesterday was a day that felt sort of like a summer day at times.
It was hot and humid yesterday. It definitely had the summer feel.
So that's my celebration, is that maybe summer's around the corner. Although I think I sort of feel like I missed spring. Feels like it went from like high 40s, low 50s to
go outside right now because it's only going to get up to 57 today.
Oh, okay. So here's spring.
So today's spring. Summer was yesterday, today's spring, and tomorrow might be winter. It's winter in Chicago. They're getting snow today, apparently.
Snow in Chicago?
Yes. Yeah. It's 40. The Orioles were playing baseball there yesterday. And it was 43 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah. I see Ed's got comments for us this morning. He's going to help us with lightning. When you see the lightning, for each second that passes until you hear the thunder, tells you how far away the storm is. I knew that much. And then this little tidbit, which I did not know, all animals are trained through their belly.
It's interesting. I've seen some things on Facebook. I think because we have a new dog in the house for the last 5 or 6 months, that they talk about not training dogs through food. That can sometimes, then they will only do it for food. They won't do it at other times when you don't have food with you. So it was an interesting thing to.
If you correlate that to the whole meatloaf discussion, there's a lot going on here. Just saying.
Yeah, we could have just had a conversation around a conversation of stream of consciousness at the moment. So. But let's not do that.
I mean, training someone with food, you could train a person, right? Do X, Bob, and you get meatloaf, and that would be a driver.
I guess it could be.
Right?
Could be. If you saw that as a celebration, as a way to celebrate. If you didn't really like meatloaf, not sure that's going to drive you to do much of anything.
Ed adds never in excess. Okay. And Missy says, good morning, Missy. Pavlov had a point.
I think he probably did enough research to say that, yes, there was a point in there at the minimum. All right. So, Bob, let's talk about objections.
Whoops. Hit the wrong button. Sorry.
Let's talk about handling objections and the objection of time. So, you want to kick us off?
Yes. Time is the one factor that we have the least control over, and we can't get back, right? You can never get time back. The time we spent, we're almost 18 minutes into this program. There's no way we can go back and get that time back.
That's correct.
So I think that's one of the things that we struggle with often as both the person buying and the person selling, the transaction of time. We tend to magnify it when we're the buyer. I don't have time because we're worried about what this is going to entail because we don't know, frankly. It's something new and, I'm scared this might take a lot of time. I know when I first started taking guitar lessons a couple months ago, I was really worried about committing to a weekly lesson, a half-hour lesson every Monday at a set time. It's like, I got practice every day. I got to do this, do that. And when I was talking to the person about the lessons, I was like, I don't know if I have enough time. And he said, well, do it for a couple weeks and see if it doesn't work, you can stop. And that was how he got over that objection with me. And I hear it with other people. It's like, well, this isn't really the right time. I'm working on my taxes. This isn't really the right time because it's almost summer. This isn't really the right time because my daughter's going to graduate from high school in a couple weeks and we're going to be trying to get her away to college. This isn't the right time because I've got key employees going on vacation. I've heard all of those. And I think it tends to be, it's not what it really is. It's the easy objection. And when you start to press a person on it, it's fascinating because it'll be like, oh, really? So if I were willing to offer you this coaching service for free for the next 3 months, would you have time? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay. So help me understand this. Where did you suddenly find the time you didn't have a minute ago? Well, and have you ever had that experience? Because I have.
Yes. I think the other thing about it is I was just thinking about it in a different way. Actually, in two different ways. One that I'll start with and the one that I'll share a little later. One is that it seems like an objection that there's no reply to, right? Is like if I say to you, I don't have time.
Right. Hey, Tom, let's get together for dinner tonight. Bob, I don't have time. It's not like I can go, well, Tom, invent an hour.
Correct. So it becomes this like almost like wow, this isn't easy. Let me just say this because I don't really want to tell them the real reason. And it will seem like there is nothing they can say around that. They'll be like, okay, well, if he doesn't have time, he doesn't have time. And I think so it becomes one of the easy objections to throw out there. And I would offer actually that if you are the person who is offering the service or the product at that time, that when you hear that, that is an opportunity for you to really say, there's something else going on here that they are just casually throwing this out there thinking that that's going to be enough to get rid of me. And it's an opportunity, I think, for the person doing the offering to really dive deeper if they choose. Now, here's the other thing about this. As you were talking about it, I hadn't even considered this, but you were talking about it as whether you were the buyer or the seller. I think there are sellers out there whose objection to learning more about their potential clients is they say they don't have time to handle objections. Could be a bigger, broader theme over the whole week is, well, if somebody says no, I'm just moving on to the next because I don't have time to dive in and learn all of this about them. I've just got to get to the next prospect and just keep going to prospects and going to prospects and going to prospects rather than saying, let me take some time and dive in a little bit deeper with this person as to why they are objecting to the opportunity, because they clearly showed up for some reason. And yet now they're objecting to the opportunity. And I think that is another side of this I had never really considered until as you were talking about it, sort of brought that up. And I think that either way, that's the easy way out for both. And if you're willing to actually want to do more, that is a great opportunity to truly learn more about your prospect or about your processes.
Well, and your average person who buys from you has to interact with you at least 8 times. And some people it's 12 or 20 times. So if you meet someone at a networking event, talk about what you do, and never talk to them again, your odds of selling to them are pretty slim. Sure. And if you think of it as a buyer, how many times do you meet someone, get to know them a little bit? And we know from research that you have to know, like, and trust the person you buy from. That's awfully hard to establish in 30 seconds with a cold call, or 30 seconds in a loud networking event, or a chance encounter at the grocery store. It takes time. I see Michael's with us this morning. Michael brings us, I've dealt with this recently of, I don't have time. It's like a chef saying, I don't have taste buds, missing out on all flavors and possibilities that life has to offer. I love that. That's that's beautiful. And then he also says, it's usually caused by pressure. So you have to open in being understanding everyone has competing priorities.
Interesting word there.
What's that?
Priorities.
Right.
Because you say you don't have time, that to me means you don't have priorities. I was working with a client who really wanted to do strategic planning. And they said they didn't have time to do that. They had too many other things to do. And I shared with them, well, that says to me that strategic planning isn't that important to you. And they kind of were like, wait, what? I just said it was important to me. I said, well, if it was important to you, you would prioritize it over other things and not just do these other things. So clearly it's not the priority you think it is. Well, and it's funny now working with them, how they have found time because they're starting to see the value of strategic planning to actually make that work. And I said to them the other day, I was like, isn't it fascinating how we're almost through a strategic plan for you in a lot shorter time than you thought it was going to take. And you actually had the time to do it. And they shook their head at me.
Well, I've been going through
Smiled and
this.
smirked and all of
I've
it.
been going through this in the last couple of weeks with my own having moved. The time it takes for me to find the box that has the things in it that I need at a specific moment takes longer than just 15 minutes to empty the box and put stuff in drawers. And so it became one of these, okay, I can invest evenings to get the boxes emptied out and put things where I want to put them, or I can keep going, oh, which box is that in? And there was a day where I must have moved the same boxes 8 times just to find the things I needed. And we all do that. The boxes stand in for all the things we do. And often it's the easy things, because when we're contemplating the things that we're objecting to, they're more difficult. They're outside our frame of knowledge or reference, especially if you're working with someone else. You know, if I come to you and say, Tom, I need help with doing emails. Or you say to me, Bob, boy, you're spending a lot of time on emails. Can I help you with that? Tom, that sounds great. I don't have time. It's not because I don't have time. It's because I'm afraid that you're going to send me to a place I don't want to go into, which is
Possibly.
I'm not really good at it. I'm going to have to learn. I'm going to feel uncomfortable. I might get it wrong. And I see that in my own life all the time. It's just like I can see and I think the big thing that I've really realized is the people who find success tend to be the ones who are willing to be uncomfortable. And uncomfortable means sometimes saying, you know what, I really don't have time for this, but it's a priority and it needs to happen. And I always liken it to, I'm sure we've all had something like this where you get that call, you have a busy week, you say, I've got a busy week, and then suddenly you get a call and you have an emergency. Someone's hurt, your car doesn't work, and suddenly you have time to deal with this thing that if I had said to you Monday morning right now, hey, Thursday, you're going to be completely sidetracked because something's going to happen. Your car's going to break down. Oh, no, I can't deal with that. You could go get the oil changed today, take you an hour. I can't fit it in. Or you can wait till Thursday and it's going to be a 4-hour ordeal. Which do you choose? Most people would say, well, you know, I'll take my chances. It's not going to happen. I'm more and more trying to think about that. What are the alternatives? Which is the lesser of the two evils? Because what I find is when you get that thing that chews up your time, it really eats into your time. And so much of it's preventable, like getting your oil changed, like checking your tire pressure.
Or taking a day to clean all your boxes out. And so it's done, rather than taking the time you spend shifting them around, searching, moving the same boxes over and over again, and thinking that at some point you're going to get to this.
Yeah, I should show you the background. You would laugh.
Well, I think, you talked about it earlier. You chose to do something different, so you prioritized that. You could have prioritized organizing your office rather than getting stuff out of the bunker. That could have been a choice. And I think those are one of the things that...
And I could prioritize my weekend that way. And not
absolutely.
gone to a nice dinner last night, not done various other things that I chose to do. And I think until we thought about it right now, I don't remember making that choice. I know that's it. And what I mean by that is I didn't consciously say on Friday, okay, here's the options I have for the weekend. I can deal with all the boxes all weekend and Monday morning hit the ground running. Everything's perfect. Or I can do these other things. The other things just kind of came along. Now, I will say Saturday I was going to deal with boxes and something came up that was admittedly more appealing to me. And even the person I was going to be doing the thing with was like, look, if you want to deal with boxes today, I get it. I'm like, nah, they'll be here.
Yes,
they are here.
Yes, they will.
And that's the time objection, because putting away the stuff in the boxes it's a lot like a business thing. It's uncomfortable for me because I have to figure out where to put it, what's the right place. How am I going to make this look? And so there's a lot of the same emotions you have when someone says, I can help you with this thing. You're going into the unknown.
Is that your one thing?
No, I see Edward's got another comment. I have some customers that I never met in offering self-service pickup and delivery. They drop off their job at the door and pick up after hours and pay at the door pay box. Estimates from a photo text. Time is money. Most clients don't have the time for small talk. So I know Edward does custom work of some sort. I can't remember exactly what it is, but think about that whole time component there, that more and more people want to just drop it off, pick it up. Like I go to a laundromat where they have a place where you can drop it off and you can pick it up. It's self-service. And it's like, wow, how convenient that is. What I would argue is you lose something in life without the small talk. Because sometimes there it is, master upholsterer works. I knew, I was going to say upholstery. Boy, talk about a lost art. Can't find many of those out there.
Yes.
But I think it's interesting when you think about the fact that we more and more are creating situations where you don't interact with people because we put such a premium on our time. And I think one of the things COVID really taught us was how valuable people are. You know, what did you hear over and over and over? I heard it from even introverts. I miss being around people. I know a person who missed hugging people. That was like, I used to hug my family and my friends. I couldn't hug people. And that was like the big thing. And that takes time, right? That's not productive time. I see we have some more comments from Michael. Time and priority is like eating vegetables. He is on fire this morning. You may not love it, but it's good for you in the long run. We all need to slow down to recognize what might be good for you. Edward says visionary art. And Michael comes back with, and your customer, what might be good for you and your customer. And I think that's one of the things that my one thing might be to slow down. That sometimes the time objection, whether you're giving it to someone or you're hearing it, is really about slowing down and really thinking through something. You know, when I took the time to stop and think, get the bunker sorted out or get the room sorted out, there was a psychological component of the bunker is done. It's in the rearview mirror. I don't have to worry about it anymore. It is off the plate. And that was really nagging at me. So much so that I forgot all about it for a couple of days. Now that it's gone, I can turn the keys into the bunker from the bunker and totally no longer have to worry about it at all. So that became, in my time, mentally, the time was more valuable. And I don't know that we always do that. And I don't think we help our customers always have that, like you did with the strategic plan. Hey, here's the deal. You can plan or you can have it planned for you. Which one in the long run are you going to invest in? You know, it's the pay now, pay later thing.
Sure.
What's your one thing?
So I think my one thing is one of the things, and this used to, I got to a point where this used to drive me nuts. And where you, especially if you worked in an organization where people would say, I'm so busy. I'm just way too busy. And it gets me thinking, it's the same thing. It's like, I don't have time. Well, you have time. We all have the same amount of time. It's 24 hours in a day. Everybody has the same. It's the choices that we make and how we are going to leverage that time. And I think that's the piece that people forget about. Is they're so busy being busy and telling everyone how busy they are that they're making assumption that everyone else isn't busy, even though we all have the same amount of time. It's just some people have figured out how to leverage and make choices around their priorities to then leverage their time. And I think that's one of the key things, is that when people start talking to you about time, now you can start having conversations with them about priorities. Because it's different it's a choice if it's not your priority. Fair enough. Like if somebody comes to me and says, hey, Tom, the coaching is interesting. It's just not my priority. Okay. That, it's a lot hard. I could ask more questions about, okay, well, what are your priorities? And, you can still get into, well, if those are your priorities and yet your business isn't where you want it to be, maybe you might need to rethink your priorities. I don't know. We could have a conversation around that. And I think there are always the opportunities, is that when people come up with objections, I probably should have saved this for Friday, but
Yeah, why don't you save it for Friday?
all right. So I think it's one of those things for us to always remember. We all have the same amount of time. It's the priorities that we choose, and those are a choice, or sometimes they're given to us. If you are working for someone and they say, I realize that you've got a lot going on and you don't have any time for this, I need you to make this a priority. Or like you said, my car breaks down and now I have to make this a priority, and I have to figure out what do I push back as a part of that. And I think the challenge is people don't want to make those choices, or they choose the one that seems easier. Well, I'm not going to get my oil changed today because I got a million other things to do. Well, I'm going to go empty the bunker because I really don't want to figure out where all this stuff is going to go. So I'll do that instead of this. And
I have a comment to add that is going to pain me, but I'll do it. Ed says, great point, Tom Brush. Oh. No, I'm kidding. It is a great point. And I love they pointed out that it was a great point.
Bob was actually looking for great points, Bob and Tom. Thank you for sharing. I think people are starting to figure you out, Bob.
Well, I am an enigma. I mean, I'm not really transparent about what is important to me here.
That's okay. All right. So that, I think, was an interesting conversation around time and how we leverage it or don't. And if you have one thing you'd like to share, if someone else wants to share an antidote, please feel free to do it. Because I think, people haven't heard it the way you've had. Oh, man.
My sister rings in with great point, Bob.
Beth, you just made his day. Now he can move forward and take whatever next step he wants to take. Because he got those words of affirmation that he's been dying for.
Well, that's the only reason I do this program.
And please feel free to share your thoughts and ideas, because it's interesting. I'm not sure I've ever thought of priority and time as vegetables, as Michael had shared. Yep. And someone else might be out there, wow, I had never really thought about it that way. And even though they've heard people talk about time and priorities a lot, that concept may have been the one that spoke to them, and that they actually heard it, not that just somebody was talking to them about it. So please feel free to share your value, because we know that it'll have an impact for someone out there. Just like Bob shared his value of how he likes words of affirmation, and Beth heard that and came back
and added this. I didn't want you to feel left out.
Very nice of your sister to do that for you.
That's it. And I should say thank you, Ed, Beth, Missy, and Michael, for your comments.
Absolutely.
We appreciate your involvement. Makes it a much more engaging and enlightening discussion.
Or it just makes it different. Depends on how you want to look at it.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us today. If you happen to be listening to the podcast and you're like, oh, I got to share something, but I don't have anywhere to share it, and I don't have anywhere to share it.
Maybe they have words of affirmation for me that they want to share.
Maybe.
Here's my phone number. No.
Text Bob with your words of affirmation, or because he may not give out his number. You can always go to our Ring of Renegades Facebook group and share them there, or any other thoughts or ideas that you might have along the way.
Connect with me on LinkedIn.
Correct. There's lots of different ways.
We can schedule a Zoom meeting.
Anyhow, please feel free to join us inside our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, because while you're sharing your value and Bob is getting his words of affirmation, you might also gain some value from what others have to say in there as well. So we look forward to seeing you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. If not, we'll see you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m.-ish Eastern time, for our next episode of Today's Antidote. Go out and enjoy your day, everyone.
Hey, and embrace the renegading you. It is so worth it on this beautiful, beautiful Monday.
Yes, indeed. All right. Thanks for being with us today. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to Today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.